have the actual talk, let's take a moment and cultivate a motivation. It's being aware that we have a very precious human life with the possibility to meet the Buddha's teachings, extraordinary teachers, other practitioners. We have enough food, shelter, medicine, clothing to sustain our lives. And most of all, we have an interest in the Dharma. We have a spiritual yearning. And that's a very important part of us, ourselves, that we should respect and nourish. And one of the best ways to nourish it is by cultivating great compassion and then bodhicitta. And dedicating our lives to benefiting others and progressing on the path to realizations, Buddhahood, so that we can be of greater and greater benefit. So let's make that the purpose of sharing this lovely Saturday morning together. And let's extend it and make it the purpose of our lives. Sustain your Dharma practice, something like that. And Tennyson told me the story of
he's here, Ryan.
Who asked Song Rinpoche, what do you do when your Dharma practice is monotonous? And he asked, what does monotonous mean? And everybody said, boring. And Rinpoche said, why? You thought it was going to be exciting? So this is something that we all suffer from. I must say, that having taken certain commitments over the years to do certain practices on a daily basis, it's very helpful, even if they're boring, or they're not boring, I'm boring. The practices are quite interesting. I'm just the one who's bored. But if I do them, even if they're boring, I still feel the benefit of it. In fact, one day I thought, well, what would happen just, if I didn't do my practices? I just got up in the morning, got dressed, had my tea, and then went off and did what I usually do during the day. And I thought, I would be a total mess. I'm a mess now, but a bigger mess. Because somehow doing those practices every morning, even if I don't do them very well, it has an effect. And it brings us back home to what our values in life are. It brings us back home to remember the kind of person that we want to be and become. So it's good to do them anyway. question comes, well, can we make them more interesting? And, the usual way when you ask that to a Lama is they say, meditate on death. Yes, that's definitely makes, a sense of urgency come for our practice. But I should say, I think there's other ways to get our mind more interested in our practices. And I think that way is compassion. Yeah. Coming back and really focusing on compassion in your practice. Because I don't know about you, but I find the meditations on generating love and compassion they're so helpful in my life. And they've really turned around my relationships with my family, with my friends, with myself. So I found those practices very effective, also because every day we encounter other living beings. So we, of course, have the choice of what kind of attitude to have when we encounter these other living beings. And I don't know about you, but my habitual pattern, probably from beginning this time, is what can they do for me? Yeah. Who's going to help me? Yeah. Who may harm me? And what can I get them to do for me? And you come into the Dharma, and then you begin to see that that's not quite the right kind of attitude. That's not a virtuous attitude. That is, a mindset that's the cause of more and more cyclic existence. And it's the mindset that breeds anger. And again, I don't know about you, but annoyance, irritation, anger, belligerence, these things arise so easy in the mind, especially nowadays. Yeah, it's like standard governmentally approved procedure. Get angry and be mean. And that's not the kind of person I want to be. But there's a lot of habit energy going in that direction. Okay, so these meditations on compassion are so important. Just, not only for the Bodhisattva practice, but just to be a nice person on a day-to-day basis. And if we can't be a nice person day to day, how are we ever going to be bodhisattvas? It isn't like you become a bodhisattva first and then you become a nice person. That's not the order. So, I thought to share with you one of the meditations on compassion that I find very, very effective. And it comes from Chandrakirti. It's his homage at the beginning of his supplement to Nagarjuna's treatise on the Middle Way. And in this homage, which J. Rinpoche unpacks in his commentary book, Rapsa, Chandrakirti talks about three types of compassion. Yeah? The compassion observing sentient beings, the compassion observing phenomena, and the compassion observing the unapprehendable. Unapprehendable means sentient beings who are empty of inherent existence, where you can't apprehend an inherently existent sentient being. But the first one, happy compassion for sentient beings. Is there's this analogy of our plight as sentient beings being like a bucket in a well. And first we meditate, there's 6 points in this analogy, and we meditate on this in terms of our own situation in samsara. And when you do that, you definitely realize samsara is not a good place to hang out. You know, I need to do something about this. And then when you take those same 6 points and meditate them in terms of other living beings, then compassion arises. Okay? So it's very important to do them with respect to ourselves first. Yeah. That's why in the stages of the path, we meditate on the defects of cyclic existence with respect to ourselves first. And having compassion for ourselves means we want to aspire for liberation. We want to get out of samsara. And then when we change it to meditating on others, we get a much stronger feeling because we already have that feeling in ourselves. Okay? So this analogy with the bucket. Okay? So imagine there's a big, deep well, and a bucket, a heavy wooden bucket, that is at the bottom of the well, and you have a pulley at the top and a rope connecting the bucket over the pulley, and then someone pulling the pulley to bring the bucket up. And in olden days, that's how you used to get your water. Okay? And in some places on this planet, that's how you still get your water. Okay, so they say sentient beings are like a bucket in a well in 6 ways. So, the first way, of course, I don't have glasses, so I can't read my notes. Okay, so the first way is that the bucket, is bound by a very strong rope. Okay, so we're like the bucket. The rope is our afflictions. Starting off with ignorance, going to attachment, anger, jealousy, arrogance, lack of integrity. So the rope is like the afflictions, or so the afflictions control the bucket. And in the same way, if we start out thinking about ourselves, we are very much controlled by our afflictions, aren't we? Yeah. So much so that we often don't even realize that we're controlled by our afflictions. We see something nice, and the mind comes that says, I want it, I've got to get it. Yeah. It's the mind of attachment. This is what it means to be a good citizen in America. Yeah. Seriously, after 9/11, George Bush gave us 2 instructions how he led the country after 9/11. 1, get angry. 2, go shopping. Because going shopping is good for the economy. And after 9/11, there was fear about the economy. So, that was the instruction. Hatred and greed, attachment. Yeah? So we're getting it from all corners, that this is what it means to be a good American. Yeah? Of course, every other country, people think similarly, don't you think? Yeah? People from morning to night, what can I get that's going to make me happy? Yeah, me first. And going out, I gotta get this, and then whatever we have, we're attached to. You don't want to share it. Anger. Anger is just proliferating nowadays, isn't it? And it's not, we can't just say, oh, it's other people, it's us too. A little bit of jealousy, a little bit of arrogance. How about some confusion? So we're very much controlled during the day by our afflictions. And like I said, we don't even realize it. And the world around us encourages us to be like that. Yeah? You're driving on the highway and somebody cuts you off, what do? You don't want to even say what you do. Yeah?
Just happened coming here this morning.
Yeah. So it's easy, all somebody did was cut us off, and we're like, yeah. So this is what it means. We're controlled by afflictions, aren't we? Yeah. We get something that's a little bit better than other people. Yeah. Some people get something better than us. Jealous. So it happens at work, it happens in the Dharma Center. Yeah. I got to drive the Rinpoche around. That's special. Do you see the picture of Rinpoche and me? And he signed it. Yeah, dedicated it to me. Do you have a picture like that? Oh, you don't. Oh, that's really true. Okay. So, pride comes right in the Dharma Center too, doesn't it? So we're like the bucket that's controlled by the rope of the afflictions. The second way is the operator of the pulley moves the bucket. So we see ourselves as an independent person, don't we? We feel like, here I am. This is me. I'm an independent person. I have free will. Or if I don't have free will, it's because of some political force. Something outside that's keeping me from doing what I want. Yeah. But I'm an independent person. I make my own decisions. There's a real me that makes decisions. Don't you feel that way? Yeah. There's a real me that makes decisions. Yeah. So that's, again, like the afflictions, and here the affliction specifically of grasping at an inherently existent person. Yeah, there's a real me. And so there's the operator who's pulling, who's pulling the rope on the pulley. So we consider ourselves an independent person. But actually, again, we are controlled by our afflictions, in particular the root affliction of ignorance. Yeah, thinking that there is a real solid me, who incidentally happens to be the center of the world. Yeah. And the problem with the world is that the world does not realize that I am its center. Yeah. So I try and inform people that if they only follow my advice and do what I think is best, that everything would be great. Yeah. But all these other people are controlled by ignorance, not me, them, because they mistakenly think they're the center of the universe. They just don't get it, that I am. So that's like the operator pulling the rope, controlling us, isn't it? Yeah. So actually, based on ignorance, afflictions arise, based on these disturbing emotions and wrong views. Then we create negative karma, we act. And then based on the karma we create, sometimes positive karma, sometimes negative karma, then because the ignorance is always behind it, then what happens is rebirth in cyclic existence. Okay? So we begin with ignorance, to afflictions, to karma, to rebirth. And then once there's rebirth in cyclic existence, then we have everything that comes with cyclic existence, like not getting what we want. Okay? Or getting what we want, and then it's boring. Yeah. Or getting what we want, and then it breaks. Or it leaves us. Or it isn't as good as we thought it was going to be. We're disappointed. And so that is kind of our life story. We all have, different stories within that. But, that's kind of our life story. And then the four big events, we're born, we get sick, we age, and we die. And then in between birth and death, we're working so hard to get what we want, but we can't. We can't arrange all of our duckies so that everything is perfect. Yeah? Remember the duckies when you were a little kid? Remember duckies when in the bathtub? And you had your little plastic duckies and you try and line them all up. And then there was a wave that would come. And we're like that now, trying to arrange the rest of the world so that it's what we want. And then things change. I talk about duckies a lot in teachings. So somebody from Atlanta sent us a big box of 50 duckies, plastic duckies. Yeah. And they all didn't look alike. Yeah. There was a patriot ducky that looked like Uncle Sam. There was the beach Dharma ducky that looked like somebody at Huntington Beach. There was the corporate Dharma ducky, or just ducky who had a tie on. Yeah. So we're trying really to arrange the whole rest of the world, and it just doesn't work. But we feel like we're an independent person that's in control. Yeah. Any of you have control problems? Yeah. The one thing we can just do that we can only control is ourselves, but we usually try and control other people. So that's the second one. The operator pulling the rope that moves the bucket. The third one is that the bucket constantly goes up and down. Okay? It goes up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down. Like a yo-yo. Okay? Up and down and up and down. It doesn't stay still. So that's like us in cyclic existence. We get born in an upper realm, we get born in a lower realm. We get born, we go from the God realm to the human realm, to the hell realm, to the demigod realm, to the animal realm, to the hungry ghost realm, to the human realm. Always changing. We have this idea that we're a fixed person, but actually, we keep changing. We're not a fixed person. Yeah? When we die, whoever we are this life is finished. The continuity of consciousness goes on. We take another body, unless we're born in the formless realm. And, it all continues. So we have a new body, the continuum of this mind stream with all the karma on it. And then, according to which karma ripens at the time of death, sometimes we go up to a higher realm, sense pleasure deluxe, or meditation bliss deluxe, and sometimes we go to the lower realm. So there's no stability in cyclic existence. Yeah, always moving, always moving. And when we die and go from one life to the next, we have to give up everything, including our identity. And if you think about it, we've all created identities for ourselves. Somebody says, tell me about yourself. And you start with all your identities. Your nationality, your race, your ethnic group, your religion, your socioeconomic class, your education level, your occupation, whether you're single or married, how many kids you have, whether you're employed or unemployed, where you live in town, what you like, what you don't like, where you go on vacation, and where you don't go. And on and on and on and on, And we've created a whole identity that we think this is who we are. And then at the time of death, it's gone. It's gone. The continuity of the mind goes on. But this whole identity we created for ourselves in this life doesn't. You think that when you get born in the next life, you're gonna say, oh, hi, I remember you. Yeah? It's not like that. Okay? So, that's the third one. Constantly going up and down, changing. So this is our situation. Yeah, this is the situation we live in. Yeah. And once we're born, death is for sure. Everybody goes around in this world, I have to do this, I have to do that. I have to get a job, I have to get a raise. I have to go pick my kids up, I have to make dinner, I have to get the car fixed. Yeah. You don't have to do any of those things. Yeah. The only thing that we have to do, that we don't have a choice about, is dying. Everything else, there is some choice about. Yeah. And if every time you catch yourself saying, I have to, change it to, I choose to. Because that's in fact what we're doing. We're choosing to do these things. And when we say, I choose, it means, first of all, I have some choice. Second of all, I have some responsibility. So I can't blame it on everybody else. And I can't say the circumstances trap me. The circumstances may be horrible, may be dire. I may not have all the good choices I want, but there are some choices. Okay. So it's much better for us. Don't say I have to. Say I choose to. And then sometimes you might say, what in the world am I choosing to do this? Yeah? I need to make some other choices here. Okay, then the fourth way. So with each of these ways of thinking about how we, and by extension all sentient beings, are like a bucket in a well, you can see, do you feel some kind of empathy for yourself, empathy for others arise for, beings who are trapped in this kind of situation? Yeah. Do you feel even some compassion for yourself? Some kindness for yourself, seeing the difficult situation that your cyclic existence is? Yeah. So about each of, after we think about each one, yeah, the purpose is not to bring us down. The purpose is to help us see our situation clearly, and then to see that we have a choice about it, and give ourselves some empathy, give ourselves some compassion, and then start doing things. Okay? But it brings a sense of urgency when we really take a good look about what our samsara, what our cyclic existence exactly is. Yeah. Because when you live in Southern California is its own universe. I don't know how much people here realize it, but, Southern California is a universe, New York is a universe, and then there's the rest of the country. Yeah. And, it's easy just to get stuck in one's own universe, and thinking that the whole universe is like where you live. Yeah. It's not. In big ways and small ways. I live out in the countryside. So I was thinking this morning, because I'm staying at my sister's house who was here, and there's no bugs in the house. I live out in the countryside. I have lots of bugs where I live. Every day I'm taking bugs outside. Every day when I walk to the kitchen, to eat, there's bugs. I mean, it's just part of life. And it's funny that I come here and there's no bugs. Yeah. It's a small thing, but yeah, some people come where I live and they freak out. There's bugs. Well, yeah, of course. And there's mice, and there's all kinds of birds, and there's turkeys, and there's deer, and, all sorts of other creatures. And there isn't as much asphalt. Can you imagine? You walk somewhere and you're not walking on asphalt. You walk on dirt. Think about your life here. How often do you walk on dirt? Anyway, I'm getting off on a tangent. Yeah. But my point is how we get stuck in our little bubble. Yeah. And it's sometimes hard for us to see beyond it and think of other people's lives who live in very different circumstances. But we all have birth, aging, sickness, death. We all have trying to get what we want, getting what we don't want, being disappointed, being disillusioned. Okay, that's common. The subplots are different, but the general theme, yeah, we're all doing the same play. Okay, the fourth way that we're like buckets in a well is that the buckets go down easily, but it takes a lot of exertion to pull them back up again. Okay. I once did a retreat in Italy at a house which didn't have running water, and it had a bucket in a well. And to bathe, to cook, everything. We were pulling that bucket up. And when I came to this point in Chandrakirti, it's like, yeah, that bucket goes down real quick. Yeah. But pulling it up when it's full of water, that takes some energy. And so we sentient beings in cyclic existence, we easily fall to the lower realms, to the more unfortunate rebirths, on account of our destructive karma, our disturbing emotions, and the actions, that they promote. So we easily get reborn in unfortunate circumstances, and it takes a lot of energy to create the virtue, the wholesome karma, to be born in good circumstances. So this is where our practice comes in, You say, okay, I'm going to practice every morning. I have my practices. I promise my teacher, I'm going to do them every morning. Starting tomorrow. Because today I'm tired. Why am I tired? Because I stayed up late last night talking to friends. Yeah? Or watching TV, or surfing the internet, or hanging out at the pub. So I'll start mañana. Okay? And then you wake up the next morning, I'm going to do my practice. So first thing, I'm going to set up my altar, make offerings to the Buddha. Setting up the altar takes up too much time. I won't have so much time to meditate. So I'll skip setting up the offering. Anyway, they say the Buddhas don't eat apple and oranges, so, he's not going to miss it. So I'll do offerings starting mañana, tomorrow morning. And so it goes, We have the highest of intentions, but we never quite get there, And so, because of that, it's so easy to fall to the lower realms, because instead of spending our time creating virtue, we spend our time creating non-virtue. But I'm not creating non-virtue. Look at the movies you watch. Yeah? Hollywood is very expert at controlling us. Look at how you watch the news. Yeah. What kind of emotions are going on inside of you when you watch these violent movies? Yeah. I was on a plane yesterday coming down here. And I don't watch the movies, but somebody in front of me, usually these violent movies, with all the people who look like they're from outer space, chasing in cars and crashing cars and shooting each other with these weapons with flames that come out and doing all their karate stuff and all this. Usually it's men. There's a woman doing that. Yesterday the movie was about women beating each other up. There was a star woman, so she was sexy, she gotta be sexy, And she had these, something on her hand that she just zap and would zap all these people and kill them. Now, what happens to your mind when you're watching that? Yeah?
Excitement.
We think it's fun. We think it's exciting. What's it teaching you? What seed is watching that planting in your mind? Yeah. What are you beginning to see as normal human behavior? Yeah. What is becoming socially acceptable? When they had the shooting in the theater in Aurora, remember that? It was a Batman movie. Now, Batman's violent. And the movie was so good, it was so entertaining watching Batman shoot these people and beat these people up and kill these people, just like the video games, and it's thrilling. But as soon as a real shooter came into that theater, it was no longer entertaining. Why do we think the movie is entertaining, but the real life is horrific? Yeah? And can young kids tell the difference between the movie and the real life? And what kind of thing is this putting in our mind? And why do we think violence is entertaining? It's something I've pondered for years. Why is it entertaining? Yeah. And so if the movies aren't violent, then they're all about sex. Yeah. What is so interesting about watching other people kiss and have sex? I mean, yeah. You can watch the dogs. You go to India, the dogs are always, having sex on the street. You can go, if you want to be a voyeur, go and watch the dogs. It's cheaper than paying for a ticket to a theater. But why do we find this entertaining? Yeah? We have our own lives with our own human potential to do so much good in the world. And what do we choose for entertainment? Yeah, it's like beyond me. Okay, but my point is, I'm not getting too far out of my tangent. It does relate to this. The point is that based on, what we see, what seeds we plant in our mind, then we act that way. We see violence, we act violently. We see desire, we act with attachment and greed. Yeah. And this creates the karma that makes the bucket go kerplunk to the bottom of the well. Yeah. And the bottom of the well has monsters. Yeah, and the monsters are created by our own minds. Yeah. I once was on a plane. Yeah, I spend a lot of time in planes. It's not my favorite pastime. So the person, a few seats out, or no, maybe this was the days before you all had your own thing. So there's a big screen. Anyway, the movie, it was a monster movie. It was dark and scary. And this woman, quite delicate woman, someone's, Prince Charming has to come and save her because she can't take care of herself. But, maybe you have to be like that, don't you? Nowadays. So, she's walking in this dark room, and then all of a sudden, a skeleton comes out, and she screams. And I thought, wow, this is really like, it's kind of like our lives, We're walking along, and then karma ripens in the most unexpected way. It's not in my calendar. How come it's happening today? And we freak out. And, she's so busy screaming that she can't think of how to deal with the situation. And I thought, why don't you turn around and talk to the skeleton? Yeah? Instead of being scared of the skeleton and freaking out and going into your own drama where you can't see anything except your own fear, how about turning around and saying hello to the skeleton? Yeah? And why don't we do that sometimes? When things happen the way we aren't expecting them, instead of freaking out, turn around and say, oh, hello. Yeah? You're now the situation that is front center. How am I going to work with you in a kind and compassionate way? Yeah? How am I going to work with this difficult situation so that I don't inflict harm on others and create a ton of negative karma myself? But we usually don't do that. And so as a result, the bucket goes kerplunk. And then after a while, another monster, another skeleton comes out. Okay, next one, this is the fifth one, is the bucket on the pulley goes round and around without any discernible beginning or end. Okay? So the pulley puts the bucket down, pulls it up, it goes down, it goes up, it goes down, it goes up. It's like being on the Ferris wheel and you can't get off. Being on the Ferris wheel and the, what's the one with the horses?
Merry-go-round.
What?
Carousel.
The carousel?
Merry-go-round.
Merry-go-round. The merry-go-round, yes. So you're sitting on your horsey and it goes round and around and you think it's fun, but at a certain point your stomach starts to hurt and you want to get off and you can't get off. Yeah? Because there's too much habit pattern energy going on the merry-go-round. You can get off, but you have to look inside at your own ignorance, anger, and attachment and transform your mind to get off. But instead of doing that, you're stuck going round and around on this merry-go-round with the same sickening music. Yeah? Do you remember the music on the merry-go-round? Some kind of fake, I don't know, it's disgusting. Yeah, but we thought it was fun. It was so exciting. So in the same way, we're on this merry-go-round of cyclic existence. We go up and we go down and up and down. Sometimes we may even change horses. Sometimes we're on the Ferris wheel and we're up at the highest peak and, we would really like to get off because we have to go pee-pee. But they stop every single car. Yeah, remember to get off the Ferris wheel, they have to stop every single car. So, this is our life in samsara. Yeah, there's no discernible beginning or end. So, in the 12 links, and as we talked about a few minutes ago, we start out with ignorance, breeds the other afflictions, we create karma, we get reborn. Yeah. Then, while we're reborn, experiencing again the results of our karma, some good results, some bad results, we create more karma. Because there's more ignorance that arises in response to what happens to us. So we have more mental afflictions, create more karma, and the thing goes on and on, from beginningless time to whenever we decide we're going to get off. If we don't do anything, it's endless. If we do something, the whole thing can stop. But if we don't, if we just enjoy our samsara, and never have the fortune to meet the Buddha's teachings and start to transform our lives, then it's very difficult. So no discernible beginning or end. That's a sad situation. It's a scary situation. Yeah, when you really think about it in terms of yourself, that this is my experience, it's scary. And that's why we go to the Buddha, Dharma, Sangha for refuge. Because we need some help, we need some guidance. And then the sixth way, I can read this without the glasses. Okay, the sixth way is that we're constantly battered, forcefully. The bucket, as it goes up and down, without beginning or end. It's not just like it just smoothly goes down and gently comes up. It's getting knocked around that well, you know. As it drops, it hits here, it hits there. As it comes up, it's, you know, clunking. And so in the same way, you know, we are battered in samsara. Yeah? We go from life to life, and we're consistently being battered by the results of our own karma. Yeah? Especially the negative karma. Yeah? What batters us a lot. Okay? So when you meditate on this and you sit there, you know, and imagine the well, yeah. Just really make it and imagine all these things, how the well is controlled and what happens to it. And then put yourself in that bucket, yeah, and think that the well and the pulley and everything is your life or your lives in samsara. Yeah? And then think about these 6 points of how, you know, we are like that bucket in the well. And when you meditate like that, yeah, first on yourself, like I said, it's scary. And you realize, whoa, you know, I need to practice the Dharma. I need to do something about the situation. And I have the opportunity in my present life. So rather than just, you know, hang out doing whatever, I want to learn how to really change my situation and get out of this mess. Okay? So you come to that conclusion regarding yourself. Then you go back and you, again, go through each of the 6 and you think about it being the situation of other people. So you can choose somebody that you really care about, somebody who you really want to be happy, and then think of that person being the bucket in the well, being controlled by their afflictions. Yeah, going round and around with no beginning or end, getting clanked around in samsara, falling to the lower realms easily, difficult arising to the upper realms, being controlled by their afflictions. Yeah. When you think of somebody that you really care about in that situation, yeah, that's when compassion arises very strongly. Because you really care about that person and you don't want them to suffer. And so your idea of suffering is no longer the ouch kind of suffering. Yeah, the way beings are battled in the well isn't just breaking legs and, you know, fighting wars. It's the 3 kinds of dukkha. Yeah. One is the first one is the ouch suffering. The second one is, you know, that even when we get good stuff in samsara, it doesn't last long. And the third one is, without choice, we're under the control of afflictions and karma. Yeah. Our whole body, mind is under the control of afflictions and karma. Yeah. It's not like they're, you know, we kind of go into samsara when things are bad, and then when life is going well, then we're out of samsara. No, it's not like that. This is a eternal situation that, you know, when you get out, you really get out once and for all. But until that time, you're going up and down, up and down. Okay. So when you think of then other people, the people you care about in that situation, then compassion arises very strongly. And then broaden it, so it's not just the people that you care about deeply. Think about strangers. When you're sitting on the highway in one of the famous Los Angeles traffic jams, which happen 23 hours a day. I was from Los Angeles. Yeah. Look around at all the people in those cars. Yeah. And they all want to be happy, and they all want to be free of suffering as intensely as we do. And yet, they're like a bucket in a well. And the worst part of it is they don't know that they are. They don't understand their own situation. Yeah. They think, yeah, like us, like we often think, that I just have to get my duckies lined up. Yeah. So most people on this planet, and us too, even though we're Dharma practitioners, supposedly, often we're just trying to line up our duckies, like everybody else. And it's a fruitless endeavor. Better we should aim for liberation. Better we should try and become Buddhas. So, think about this in terms of other living beings. Start with the people you care about, then go to strangers. Then even go to the people you don't like. And instead of saying about those people, may you go to hell. Yeah, may your bucket stay at the bottom of the well forever. Yeah, that makes us a really nice person. We think we're such nice people. But what do we say to people we don't like? Go to hell. Get hit by a truck. We're so nice to other people, aren't we? Yeah. And you Twitter that, you tweet that. And you write it on comments, when you read news articles. And you put it on Facebook. And who are the people that were screaming for Facebook to monitor because those people say such horrible things? Us. Yeah. Do you slander people on your Facebook page? Or say mean things, or on those comments page? You sign in, you don't even put your own name. That's the trick. You don't put your name, then you can just let it all out. Yeah. And hey, the Prez is the chief of doing it, isn't he? Our esteemed leader is the chief of the tweets. Yeah? So if he tells people off in a tweet, well, I can too. Yeah? How do we get on that topic? Okay, but we see, so what the thing is about the people you don't like, that's how we got on that topic, So instead of wishing horrible things for the people you don't like, and instead of slandering them online, and what's that called? What does trolling mean? Is trolling when you really you gang up on somebody online? There's some word for doing that. Yeah, or all these different people online gang up and hate somebody.
Cyberbullying.
Huh?
Cyberbullying.
Cyberbullying. Yeah. Yeah. And if you're a teenager, it's horrible. If you're an adult, it's horrible. Anybody. But people do that. And then how does that person feel? Yeah, when you're the one being ripped apart by other people online, and you have no voice in the matter, and people have misunderstood everything. Okay. So instead of wishing the people we don't like harm, it's much better to have compassion for them and wish them well. Because if we wish them well and they were happy, they wouldn't be doing what we consider harmful. Yeah. I mean, if these people, right now, today's crisis, yeah, it'll change tomorrow or the next day. Yeah, the news cycle changes with each new crisis every day. So, you know, there's Iran and there's these ships and, you know, and our glorious president who's threatening to go to war with Iran and, you know, people hating each other. And they did it, they're our enemy, blow them up, they're terrorists. Yeah. Why don't we wish these people happiness? Yeah. If we help the people who we don't like, if we help the people who are miserable, you know, they might be happier and then they'd stop doing the things that we don't like. Okay? I heard a story about that. One of my teachers, somebody came to him and said, our neighbor keeps scratching our car. And he doesn't write us notes saying that he's the one who did it. He just is an older person and can't drive very well, and he scratched our car. And we could tell because of the color paint on our car. It was the color of his car, you know, and we went over to talk to him about it, and he blew up and, you know, started screaming at us. So they went to one of my teachers and said, what do we do? And my teacher said, get him a present. What? You know, this is, you know, it's like reading thought training teachings. Whatever you read, it's the opposite of what you want to do. But that's why it's the remedy. So, what they did is they knew that this guy was a golfer. So they got him some golf balls. And, you know, they went over one day and knocked on the door, and, you know, the guy saw through the little thing it was them, and of course didn't want to open it because he was mad and he knew they were probably mad at him. But eventually they talked him into opening the door, and they gave him this gift of some new golf balls. Yeah. And the guy was just floored. He was floored. Yeah. And their relationship turned around. I don't know if he ever admitted to that, but at least the hostility was gone. Okay? So it's kind of like in our practices, you know, when you do sadhana practice, how you give a torma to the spirits. No, we're always giving tormas here and there. So you can give a torma to a human being too. Somebody who's bothering you at work, somebody who bothers you at work. Yeah, be nice to them. Give them a present, give them a torma. Yeah, not one of those made out of butter, you know. Yeah, but give them something that they like, and be nice to them, and see what happens. Okay, so to go back now, these 6 ways that we sentient beings are like a bucket. If you meditate on that, that's one way to cultivate the compassion observing compassion observing sentient beings. Okay? That Chandrakirti talked about in his homage to his supplement, and that Jagar Mache unpacked in Goparapsa. There's 2 other kinds of compassion, which I'll just mention very briefly. The second one, is compassion for phenomena. Okay, now that doesn't mean compassion for the table. The table doesn't need compassion, okay? What it means is sentient beings do not have a permanent, unitary, independent soul or self. And they don't have a substantially existent, a self-sufficient, substantially existent self. Yeah. Rather, sentient beings exist because there's the body and the mind, what in Buddhism we call the five aggregates. Yeah, the body, feelings, discrimination, miscellaneous factors, and consciousness. And independence on those, on the body and mind, those psychophysical aggregates. The person is designated. Yeah, but there's no permanent self or soul there. And so you meditate on sentient beings being impermanent and lacking a permanent purpose, independent self. And that when you meditate on that, that changes your view of other sentient beings. Yeah. When you think of the person that think of somebody you're jealous of, you really can't stand that they have something that you want. And then think that that person is impermanent. They're changing moment by moment under the influence of causes and conditions. So they may have a lot of power and fame and popularity and everything right now, but it's not going to last, it's going to disintegrate. And yet they're so attached to it and they want so desperately to be happy. And yet what they're clinging on to is changing moment by moment and disappearing. Does that change your feeling about that person you're jealous of? Yeah, it does, doesn't it? They don't seem like such a big, strong, important, arrogant person anymore. There's somebody who, they're grasping at happiness that is eluding them. And they're changing moment by moment, and they're going to die one day and continue on in samsara. So when you think of sentient beings as impermanent and as lacking some kind of control or self like that, then that becomes, and have compassion for them in that situation, then that becomes the compassion regarding phenomena. Okay? So the phenomena mean the aggregates that the person is dependent on. Yeah. The person changing moment by moment by moment. Yeah. Unaware of their situation, thinking that they have all these permanent pleasures and enjoyments. But in fact, everything is in the process of disintegrating. Okay. That's the second kind of compassion. The third one, the compassion observing the unapprehendable. This is getting to the root of samsara, the self-grasping ignorance, the ignorance that thinks that there is an inherently existent person who does not depend on anything else at all. Doesn't depend on causes and conditions, doesn't depend on parts, doesn't depend on being conceived and labeled, but a person that sets itself up. And that is our innate feeling of ourself when we have a strong feeling of I. And it's so habitual that we don't even realize it, let alone question whether it's an accurate idea of the self, of the I or not. Yeah. Don't you feel that? You feel, I'm here. How do you feel? I'm here. Do you feel like, oh, I'm here only because the causes of me exist? Do you feel that way? I'm here only because of the causes for me exist? And if the causes didn't exist, I wouldn't exist? How many of us really think that? No. I'm here. Yeah. Just Solid. And I should be able to control everything. But I can't. So that's what's wrong with the universe. The problem is not that I have the wrong conception of who I am. Actually, that is the problem. But we don't recognize the problem. So, seeing sentient beings grasping on to an inherently existent person and grasping on to everything else as inherently existent. Yeah, everything has its real essence, an essential nature. And the things that are mine have the essence of being mine. This is my bottle of water. My bottle of water. Not your bottle of water. Yeah. It has something, the essence of me-ness in it. Okay. Now, that sounds totally ridiculous, doesn't it? Think about a family member. They are my husband, wife, son, daughter, mother, father, grandmother, grandfather, brother, sister, aunt, uncle. They are mine. Think about your car. My car. Yeah. If you left here and you walked outside and her car was scratched, would you get upset? No. No, sorry, Tenzin, your car's scratched. What's for lunch? If you walked out and your car was scratched, that's right, oh no. Who scratched my car? This is my car. How dare they do that to my car? Okay, so this feeling of my or mine is so strong. When the car was at the car dealer, if it got dented, you didn't care. But when the word my comes and gets put, just the word my get put on the car. Because is there anything in that car that makes it yours? Can you open anything up? Oh, the registration, that makes it mine. The registration's a piece of paper. And how did you get the car? You gave somebody a piece of plastic and they gave you a car. That's a pretty good deal. Isn't it? You gave them some plastic, they put that, just a small piece of plastic, this big. They put it through a machine and then you got a car. And then somebody dented my car. So when it was on the showroom floor, got dented, no problem. I drive it off, park it, right outside a Dharma center. People should be kind out outside Dharma centers. Yeah. And they dented my car, my new car. How dare they? Yeah. So do you see, as soon as we put the word my or mine on something, the whole meaning of that object changes. Your child in first grade flunks their spelling test. Yeah, they spell cat, K-A-T. Yeah. Now, your neighbor's kid, flunked their spelling the test because they, misspelled some other word. first grade. Yeah. Are you upset because your neighbor's kid flunked their spelling test? No, no problem. Your kid flunked their spelling test, first grade, can't spell cat. How are they ever going to get into Harvard? You know, they're never going to get into a good school. Yeah. What is going to happen? My child is doomed for the rest of their life, going through life, putting K's where they could put C's. What will my friends say when my child flunks first grade and they can't go to Harvard? You know, my life is ruined. Neighbor's kid doesn't go to Harvard. It's okay. They go to UCI. Maybe they don't even go to college. Maybe they're happy without going to college. Can you imagine that? But my child? Yeah, they are destined for the Ivy League as soon as we found out we were pregnant. Because it's my child. Okay? So, this is all due to grasping at ourselves as inherently existent people, at the kids as inherently existent, Harvard, the car, the piece of paper, all these things, we think they have real essences. They don't. They're just an accumulation of different parts that came together due to causes and conditions, and we gave them names. You know, it's really amazing to think about, because everybody in this country frets about the economy. You know, the stock market went up, and the stock market went down, and the bond market is doing something now that isn't so good, and we may have another recession, and everybody's in angst about the economy. Who invented this economy? Yeah? Did God create it? How did the idea of an economy with stocks and bonds and 401ks and Social Security, you know, how did this all come about? Where did it come from? Does it have any real essence? Yeah. We invented it. Human beings invented this whole thing. It doesn't naturally exist by itself. We invented it. And then we get freaked out and stressed out because of it. Yeah? It's like, you know, I said the monsters at the bottom of the well. We created, and then we get freaked out by what we create. Yeah? So it's all based on this grasping, on this wrong conception of who we are, how we exist, how everything else exists. So when we see sentient beings suffering from that kind of self-grasping ignorance, that's really the root of samsara. Then, of course, so much compassion comes from them, because we see that, you know, this ignorance just takes over everything, and they want to be happy, and the ignorance takes over the whole show and brings one form of suffering after another, or one form of unsatisfactoriness after another. So we're not always suffering. Suffering isn't a very good translation of the Buddhist word dukkha. It's more unsatisfactory. Okay? So, you know, meditating on these three types of compassion can really make compassion grow in our mind. When our compassion is strong, we want to do our practice. Yeah. Then doing our practice becomes interesting, and it becomes worthwhile, And it becomes exciting because we want to be able to help sentient beings because we have compassion, and we realize that doing this practice will help us generate the qualities that we need to be of the greatest benefit to others. Okay? So, try meditating on compassion and see if that rejuvenates your practice. And then report back to Sangha Rinpoche, okay? Okay, so we have a few minutes for questions and comments.
I was recently, I'm in the 1B class that you have. Last week I struggled with dependent arising as because I get conceptually sort of lost in the concept of what dependent arising is in essence. Like, what is the base of what is, like, is it something or is it just, you know what I'm saying? I mean, it seems like it's related to what you talk about in terms of the self, like there's really, like we're dependent on everything that creates us and, like all the circumstances, but what is dependent arising? I mean,
Okay.
I just have a hard time with it.
Dependent arising isn't something, like you find it in a CD and take it out or something.
Right.
Dependent arising is just talking about how things work.
Okay.
It talks about how they exist.
Right.
And that everything exists in dependence on other factors, on other things which aren't it.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
So it's pretty abstract, really, as a concept.
Yeah, when you first hear the words dependent arising, what does that mean? Yeah, it just means that everything that exists is dependent on things which are not it.
Okay. I got it. So that's where, I mean, I was looking, it seems almost like it's very tied into even the concept of compassion. Mm-hmm. Because if you're then dependent on all these things that really connect you to them, then automatically you would sense, really, you should be grateful to all that is then, because it's all part of who you are, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. I do this sometimes when there's a buffet lunch and you're eating with other people and you all put, things from the same tray on your plates. And so I could have just as easily put that piece of lettuce on my plate, but my friend put it on their plate. Yeah. But that piece of lettuce is going to eventually become part of our body. Yeah. And there it is on the outside. And it could become part of my body, but it could become part of your body. It could become part of anybody's body, depending on who eats that piece of lettuce. Yeah. So then you really see, boy, it's not like there's all these things that are mine and me and that come together to make me. It's just all flowing in different ways.
So with the second dukkha, the dukkha of change, can I enjoy things without suffering?
You're asking my permission.
No, I'm asking, is it possible? Or how do I enjoy going out with my friends or playing with the stock market without actually suffering?
Yeah. Oh, do you enjoy those things?
I do, yes.
Yeah. Then? Is your question, am I bad for enjoying things? Is that what your question
Or
is?
how can I enjoy them without suffering?
Well, the stock market goes up, goes down. There's going to be some suffering, okay?
It's also a Dharma lesson.
Yes, very much. So I'm still trying to refine what your question is. Do you want to have all the nice things in samsara without any suffering following from them? Is that your question? Or are you judging yourself for having pleasure and thinking pleasure is bad?
I'm thinking, whatever goes up, I know I'm going to have some kind of clinging to it. So how do I don't know, I guess my point is, what's the best way to mitigate those suffering?
Okay, what's the best way to mitigate the suffering? Don't cling. Yeah. How not to cling? Remind yourself that all these things are impermanent, that they're changing, that it's impossible to hold on to them forever. Yeah.
Okay.
So enjoy them for that moment they're there, and then let them go.
Would that still be considered dukkha?
It's a form of dukkha, but you're mitigating the suffering. You're mitigating the ouch suffering. Okay? When you're able to realize emptiness and completely get rid of all the grasping at all, then there's not going to be any dukkha at all. But as long as we have even some grasping or clinging, then when we have to separate from what we like, it's painful. Yeah? And this is just, I think, observe your own mind. Yeah? Observe your own mind. And when you have a lot of attachment to something, what happens when that thing is threatened? Or you lose it. And when you enjoy something, but you're not clinging on to it as mine, and oh, that was a wonderful experience, I want to recreate it. Yeah, when you're not clinging, then observe what happens, how you feel, what your feelings are. Yeah? And then I think you could probably answer your own question with that. Yeah?
Thank you.
Yeah, it's quite interesting to watch our feelings. What feelings arise in relationship to what things and what circumstances?
Okay. I have spiritual teachings in the Dharma, practicing needs to be transformed all the time for purification. Feels like solid life. And then I sometimes think spiritual teachers, spiritual gurus, the Sangha, the Sangat, they're impermanent. And so even the highest, loftiest thought, the highest moral principle doesn't exist either. And so it sounds strange because on a conventional level I need it and want it, but it feels like eventually everything's a poof, everything will disappear. And I don't want to set myself up to have nothing because I still need it until enlightenment, but sometimes I think, what is real? What is totally real? And then I say, nothing. There's nothing that truly exists. And that freaks me out a bit. That's a little freaky.
Yeah. It's good to remember that things exist conventionally. Yeah. It's not that nothing exists. Things exist. They exist dependent on other things. Okay. So the moral principles that you love and cherish and want to live by, they exist. Yeah. They're people's thoughts, actually. Yeah. And people's thoughts arise and cease and arise and cease. But when the mind is familiar with something virtuous, that virtuous thought can keep self-replicating. Yeah. When we say that things are impermanent, yeah, it means that moment one isn't the same as moment two, isn't the same as moment three. But there can be a continuity of what that thing is from moment to moment. I mean, the kata here isn't exactly the same as it was when we came in, but there's a continuity of the kata from one moment to the next. Someday the kata will fall apart and end completely. But things like ethical principles, things like the good qualities we are creating through our Dharma practice, those you can keep creating the causes so that they keep self-replicating moment to moment. So for example, a Buddha's compassion never ends. A Buddha's ethical conduct never ends. Yeah. Moment one, moment two, moment three are different moments. But that stream, that continuity continues.
So I guess it's more the experience that I want rather than the concept. Like concepts and intellectualizing fades. Like to grasp, I mean not to grasp, I don't want that word, to absorb today's beautiful teachings. And were so enlightening to my mind, and I'm so grateful.
Yeah.
But how long will it linger? You know, it's a concept, and I want to experience it and absorb it.
Yeah. So, you know, we get some feeling from the teachings. That's why we go home and meditate, okay? The word meditate comes from the same verbal root as to familiarize or habituate. And how can we keep those ideas, those principles, those values alive in our mind? By habituating ourselves to them, thinking about them all the time, you know, applying them to different situations again and again and again. Okay?
Well, I have a question about the role of dukkha in reaching enlightenment or not enlightenment, but just improving your practice. Like last night I was very ill because I was given the wrong medicine. It was way too strong. So even though I haven't practiced for a while, all of a sudden I was saying my mantras and
Yeah. It's amazing what happens, huh?
So could you address that phenomenon? Suddenly,
Which phenomenon?
well, I noticed that when people are suffering, then they become like better practitioners.
Yeah. Okay. That's because that's the ouch kind of suffering. So the ouch kind of suffering can really motivate us. You know, some people, it's very interesting. Some people, when they get sick, they stop practicing because they're sick. Other people get sick and they start practicing. Yeah. Some people get a job and they practice better. Some people lose their job and they stop practicing. Go figure. Okay? But the idea is often, you know, when we realize that we are impermanent and that our health is impermanent, then we remember the Dharma because we've heard the teachings and we heard the teachings, we nodded our head, we said, yes, that makes sense, that's completely true, and where's my chocolate? Yeah. And when we get sick, then that kind of, you know, oh yeah, I heard that teaching, talking about that, and there's some remedies, maybe I better do that. Yeah. The idea is to become, to develop our wisdom regarding these three kinds of dukkha, so that we don't have to wait until the ouch dukkha crashes on us for us to practice. But so that every moment, you know, in our day, or as much as possible as we can, to practice and to be transforming our minds. That's our aim. It's going to take us a while to get there, but we can.
There's a question from online.
Oh, okay.
Someone online is requesting a story about Geshe Gelsen, if you have one to share.
Story about Geshe Gelsen. Well, the first time I met Geshe, I was staying in the was on New Hampshire.
College of Oriental Studies.
The,
The College of Oriental Studies.
yeah, that's it. And he was there too. And we met Geshe-la. And Geshe-la had long hair, and this was before he reordained. And so we talked to him, and I was listening to the English, and very grateful that he spoke some English. And then he taught us Tonglen, which is Geshe-la's star motivation or star meditation. Something's wrong, do Tonglen, the taking and giving meditation. So that's my first encounter and memory of Geshe-la.
There's a question back there. My voice is probably big enough. This is more of a technical question on meditation. I get to this place where, I don't know if you've ever felt this, where you're about to, that space where you're awake, and you're going to fall asleep, and you go into that, and at first I was like afraid of it, and then recently I've been like letting myself go through it and just see what happens. Nothing happens, but what's going on here? I'm just curious about this, it's so overwhelming, and I do hope that's happening. It's like this phenomenon that happens, I'm in meditation, and I'm not asleep, I'm still meditating. And then it's a feeling of a warm sensation that I go through this consciousness thing where it's I'm not falling asleep, it's lucid. I don't know if anybody's ever had a lucid dream. It's this feeling. Am I doing something wrong, or is this common?
I don't know.
Oh, no.
Yeah, I can't answer your question.
Okay.
I'm sorry. Yeah. My ignorance.
No.
Yeah. I don't know.